I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Debbie. I'm here with two of my most favorite people on planet Earth, absolutely, Tony Ruiz and Charles Bright. And we're here to talk about the High Holy Day, the Oscars, and the nominations which are being announced just in a few days' time. There is so much to talk about because this Oscar season is wacky, it's mental, it's crazy, it's so unpredictable, and that's exactly how I like it. So, last night, the BAFTAs came out with their nominations. It was last night for me. And they just threw more spanners in the works. There are spanners everywhere. Like, I'm literally getting bruises from all the spanners hitting me at once. So let's talk about the main category first of all, before we move on to other things. But before we do that, I just wanted to let everyone know, we're not talking about who's going to win. We're going to talk about who's going to get nominated. Because at this point, who the hell knows who's going to get nominated? It's so up in the air. So, Best Picture. Now, I am a little worried about some films that we thought were completely safe, like West Side Story, and maybe even like King Richard, maybe even Don't Look Up. Being the Ricardos did very well with the PGA, but didn't show up at the BAFTAs. So, Tony, what do you think? What are you expecting for Best Picture?
For the longest time, I felt like there was like this long train of Belfast. It seemed like Belfast was kind of just being touted as like, oh, this is, it's a feel good and, black and white, kind of Kenneth Branagh's most personal film. But there's been all sorts of cogs thrown in the works here in terms of like what's shown up, what hasn't shown up. I think right now, in terms of nominations, I think the three safest are still probably Belfast and Dune and Power of the Dog. After that, if we were back in the old days of just a five-way, 5 selections for Best Picture, 5 nominees, I think we'd have a really hard time beyond just those 3 that I think that are safe.
Yeah. So, I mean, King Richard seemed to be pretty safe. I think it's probably going to make it in. And the Licorice Pizza has done quite well, to me, quite surprisingly. So that's probably in. But what else, Charlie? Like, what do you think?
Actually, I would say, I would say, in addition to those 3 that you mentioned, another one that I feel fairly confident about is Coda. Coda has shown up everywhere it has needed to, and including that SAG Ensemble nomination, and it really just has been showing up everywhere. It has really solidified itself as it may not be a threat to win, but it's definitely getting into picture. And that could lead to other coattail nominations if people love this film the way that it has been embraced so far. Yeah,
that's a really good point. And then apart from that, I'm thinking at the moment, I still think West Side Story has a pretty good chance, but it just seems to have really underperformed in the last couple of weeks, surprisingly so. And I'm still holding out hope for House of Gucci. I know that's a very divisive film, but I think that with 10 nominated films in this list, it could sneak in at the end. So
I still have it in my 10 slot.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that we might want to look out for that could really surprise us, or like something like Drive My Car? What do you guys think?
I don't know that Drive My Car is necessarily I don't know that it necessarily has made the kind of mainstream zeitgeist impact that, say, something like Parasite did, getting into Best Picture and ultimately winning Best Picture. I don't know that Drive My Car is necessarily going to be that kind of film. I do think that it stands a good shot at getting a directing nod. I think it's most likely going to win international film, but I think it's a real threat to get into directing.
When you combine the directing, the very big possibility of a directing nod, also with the fact that it's looking very good to show up in adapted screenplay, that's when you kind of start thinking, well, maybe it could get into picture. Although it's very hard it does feel very hard to see a 3-hour, very subdued Japanese movie getting nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, it's just, I think people are trying to make positive comparisons with Parasite, and I think Tony and Charlie, you're both right that I just don't think it's in the same boat. There's no other
Parasite was a cultural phenomenon. This is a very well. Drive My Car is a very well respected movie, but it is not a cultural phenomenon.
That's right. There's really nothing else in the foreign language international feature category that I think could slip in here. Worst Person in the World is quite popular, as is Parallel Mothers. Parallel Mothers has really, I think, seen a bit of a resurgence over the last couple of weeks because people have started to see it. But I just don't see any of those making it in this list. I want to move on to the stuff that's actually really giving us all a bit of heartburn, and that's the acting categories, particularly Best Actress. Who would have thought that by this point in time, a few days before the Oscar nominations, that the only actress who has all of the actual precursors that you would need to be completely 100% a frontrunner would be Lady Gaga. I have always, thought she was amazing, and I would give her the award if it was up to me because I thought the performance was awesome. And I have her in number one at the moment in my predictions. I'm wondering if you guys are really surprised by this, Tony. What do you think?
The biggest surprise to me is that I agree with you. I also have Lady Gaga as the frontrunner right now, and I'm seeing a very strange. It almost eerily reminds me of the Mark Rylance year for Bridge of Spies, in which he wasn't really winning a whole lot, and of course that remains to be seen at SAG and stuff like that. But the only contender that has really shown up everywhere, BAFTA, SAG, Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, is Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
And when you have that kind of consensus, without a single strong, narrative for somebody else, that puts her in a really good position. Now, a lot can happen between now and the Oscars.
That's right.
But yeah, I've got her number one right now.
And she won it in New York, the Film Critics Circle, which is really surprising to me because they usually would go for something maybe a bit more highbrow. And yet here she is with that win under her belt. Charlie, what do you think about Lady Gaga's chances?
I think they're very solid. I have her at number 2 at the moment, but I also have her in my number 1 position at SAG. I think she's going to win SAG, and if she does in fact win SAG, then I'm moving her up to number 1. It is weird that this is the one that has been the consistent player throughout. It's so weird because this film was. It felt like everyone was so excited for this film, and half the people, and then after everyone saw it, half of them were like, okay, yeah, that was pretty good. And then the other half were like, it was boring. So I mean, it does feel weird that, that this performance is, and she's good in the movie. She's good in the movie. I'm not lambasting her performance, but it does feel weird that this is the consensus that we're getting from all these precursors. That Jessica Chastain has shown up in most places. I did not expect her to get in at BAFTA, as she did not today, because the subject matter of that movie is very American. Televangelism, especially the 80s and the 70s, was a very American phenomenon. But we do have a lot of different things on here. We have Olivia Colman in there. I do have Nicole Kidman at number 1 for the Oscars right now. And the weird thing about this is that we don't know what to do with so much of this because, again, like last year, a lot of these movies are not big players, do not look like they're going to be big players for Best Picture.
Typical for Best Actress.
House of Gucci and Being the Ricardos look like they are the most likely ones. And that's when you get these ones on the bubble. And that's why today I made a big decision. It was very tough to make, but I took out Kristen Stewart and I put in Alana Haim.
Wow.
So I think that that the fact that Licorice Pizza looks like its momentum has been steady, and it looks very likely to get in for picture, director, original screenplay. I think she could very well go along for that ride.
I think that's the minute that BAFTA nomination came out, I actually took Penelope Cruz out and put in Alana Haim.
and it might not be Kristen Stewart that misses out. It might be Jessica Chastain again, or it feels weird to say Olivia Colman.
I haven't had Stewart in for a while. I took her out quite a while ago.
It still just feels weird. It feels
does.
weird.
Let's talk about that.
But the thing is about that is that, you know, I would also keep my eye on Jessica Chastain because, you know, because really that film, it's only plays are actress and makeup. It's, you know, it's on the bubble. It's on the bubble of, and I'd be very worried if I was Jessica Chastain and her team.
You know what? Like 2 weeks ago, I was thinking maybe Chastain could start becoming a front runner. But then I realized after I saw the film, you're right, Charlie. It's a very American film, and it didn't resonate with me as much as it probably might have resonated with you guys, because I didn't really recognize. I knew who she was, Tammy Faye, but I didn't know much about her, and I didn't quite care about her, to be completely honest. That means with all the international voters that are, you know, that have been injected into the Academy over the last few years, that means that she may not necessarily be such a massive front runner.
So do we all have like probably the same three? I mean, who do we all have?
Well, okay, so I've got Gaga, Kidman, Chastain, Coleman, and Hudson. So I've had Stewart out for a little while, and if you had asked me 2 months ago about Kristen Stewart, I would have laughed in your face if you had said, no, she's not even being nominated, because I thought she was going to win.
That's why it felt so
the shocking
it's
part.
Bizarre. What is wrong with everyone? Am I missing something? She was phenomenal, but okay, fine. I don't think she's a player anymore. I'm thinking Jennifer Hudson still has a pretty good shot.
She does.
I think Coleman, Hudson, Chastain, Kidman, they're all in the bubble for me. And now it could be Haim, it could be, who knows? Like, let's listen. Like, what about Renata Reinsberg? I mean, if you see Worst Person in the World, she's fantastic in that. She got the BAFTA nomination, so she could even be a surprise choice.
Yeah, I have the same for Gaga, Coleman, Chastain, Kidman. Right now, I have Haim, but I could easily see that going between, Renata or Jennifer Hudson, Penelope Cruz. Rachel Ziegler, I think, still has a shot. So, I mean, it's so perplexing.
And I would also say,
and Tessa Thompson.
Tessa Thompson. Oh my God, I was so happy when she got that nomination today. So happy. By the way, also, BAFTA still has not nominated two-time Oscar winner Denzel Washington. He's never been nominated.
It doesn't make sense. What's wrong with this?
But also, one to keep an eye out on is Amelia Jones' Coda.
Yeah, I was very happy about that.
I mean, if they really love this movie as much as everyone that I know that has seen this movie feels about it, she could easily get in there.
What that Amelia Jones nomination took me by surprise, and because I've been saying for months just internally, I wonder why she's not getting enough traction. She's so wonderful in Coda, and if people love that movie so much, why not her? So I'm very happy that she made it in. But you're right, this one's a killer, like, because what about Rachel Ziegler? If West Side Story was more of a phenomenon, then she'd probably be more in the conversation, but people have kind of forgotten about her. And then other than that, there's really no one else that I think has
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think we have a similar problem in actor. I think.
Yeah, let's move on to that.
I think that there's, a really strong case to be made for 3, maybe 4, but for me, it's that 5th slot.
Tell me what your 4 are.
Will Smith, Benedict Cumberbatch, Andrew Garfield, Denzel Washington, and then that 5th spot. Right now, I have Nicolas Cage.
Same. And I don't pray, but if I did pray, I'd be praying for him very much so, because that he should be winning as far as I'm concerned. But you know what? Like, Washington and Garfield missed at BAFTA, and okay, it's not the end of the world for them, but it doesn't help. So they could maybe slightly be on the bubble. So who else is in the conversation then? Because Peter Dinklage, I don't think is really happening.
That burned out, and there was that was a really botched campaign. I mean, to his credit and the film's credit, they tried, but it's the rollout for that has been messy, to say the least.
I don't know what they were thinking.
I think I have Javier Bardem.
Okay.
So
it's the top.
It's the top. It's the straight top 5 in our prediction center right now. I mean, Javier Bardem for me, it was him getting in at SAG.
Yeah, that
and
was huge.
the way that film has performed at the Guilds so far, it has performed very well at the Guilds. So I think that he's relatively well positioned to get in there, and he's a previous winner. He's popped up by surprise before as well. Remember, he was not getting a lot of traction with precursors for Beautiful back in 2010, I think that was.
That's right.
But he was still able to. Actually get that Oscar nomination.
So,
yeah, I think that really, if we look at who's going to go in that slot, I agree. I don't think it's going to be Dinklage. I think DiCaprio is possible.
Yeah.
I think Cage is possible. I think there's still an outside chance for maybe somebody for a left field choice like a Simon Rex.
Oh God, I would love that.
Which I would love.
what about
and Mahershala Ali?
Mahershala Ali.
Mahershala Ali is showing up in places. He showed up at Globes. He showed up at BAFTA today.
That was wonderful in Swan Song. That's possible.
Yeah, and I would also say, oh God, if we were in a perfect world, Joaquin Phoenix's performance in Come On would be in here too. And maybe it could, as he gets it as a surprise, as because not only is the performance good, but he's also still in the afterglow of his win for Joker.
Yeah, that's right. I would say the same thing. They're complete long shots with Tim Blake Nelson in Old Henry and Clifton Collins Jr. in Jockey.
Collins.
Category. Yeah, he's just wonderful in that movie. Look,
Collins has been pounding the pavement for that movie.
He really has. Good on him for doing that. At least
at Middleburg, I can tell you, he was just always around the resort. Yeah. Middleburg, he was just there.
So I want to talk about now. We move on to supporting actress. Once again, it is the category that I'm so invested in for a couple of reasons. No surprise, Katrina Balfe, who you all know, I'm a huge fan of her work in Outlander, and I thought she was really fantastic in Belfast. To me, she and Jamie Dornan, which by the way we'll talk about in a minute, she was wonderful in Belfast. I think she's probably in second place at the moment after Ariana DeBose. And it will I think whoever wins SAG will probably then have a really nice, clear pathway to the Oscars. But in terms of nominations, I was very disappointed for Kirsten Dunst at the BAFTAs. I still think she's making it in, and I'm very happy to see Ann Dowd, the wonderful Ann Dowd, that, big favorite at Gold Derby for her work in Handmaid's Tale and The Leftovers. I think she's looking good for a nomination. What do you think, Charlie?
I think, we saw her on HBO in The Leftovers, and then we saw her on Hulu.
Hulu.
That's for The Handmaid's Tale, and it really, when the movie first debuted at Sundance last year, it seemed like she was just in that prime position in her career that it would make sense that she would be the standout. Even though I really feel like, how can you recognize one person in that movie without recognizing all of them, because they're all, and personally, I think her and Martha Plimpton are leads. I think they're co-leads, and Reed Birney and Jason Isaacs are supporting. She's so good in Mass. But I really feel like I really feel like that movie for her to really get in. I feel like that movie would have to have performed much stronger. At this point, I feel like Mass's only chance is a lone screenplay nomination, which breaks my heart. To a million degrees, but another one again. Coda, if Coda's coming on strong, Marlee Matlin could get it.
Oh, I hope so. I mean, she's not done quite really that well with the precursors, but I loved Marlee Matlin in Coda. I really did. I know she's
also as a previous winner. That she's a previous winner.
Yeah,
and we've seen this kind of phenomenon where if a film is really popular with the Academy, it'll bring in an unexpected acting nomination, usually in supporting. Hello, Marina de Tavira. So, I mean, I go back and forth. Right now, I currently have the top 5 at Gold Derby of DeBose and Dunst and Ellis and Balfe and Ruth Negga. But I go back and forth between Ruth Negga and Marlee Matlin, and I don't know which one to land on.
Oh, it's so tough. I've had Marlee in there for a while, and I will not take her out because you're so 100% right, Tony. That Marina de Tavera thing is why I'm saying Marlee Matlin's in. And Ruth Negga has really done very well, but I just don't. I think she's in sixth, and so that's how I'm tackling this. Remember 3 or 4 weeks ago, Rita Moreno was like the big story. People were saying she's going to make it in. She's completely just fallen off. I don't know why, because she was great in West Side Story. And yet Ariana DeBose is still up there, no matter how badly that film's doing in terms of buzz. Ariana and Katrina are the only 2 actors who have gotten all the precursors they need, like Lady Gaga did. So what's going on there? Why? I don't know, Charlie. What do you think? Is there anyone else that we're missing?
I don't think there's anyone else that really has a serious shot of getting in.
Not even Ellis or Blanchett, Buckley,
Ellis. You're talking about Anjou Ellis?
Yeah,
Ellis is in the top 5. Ellis is in the top.
She's.
Oh, you've got her because I don't.
She's my number. She's my number 2.
Okay, I don't have her.
She steals that movie.
She's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are others. Just because of who she is, I would keep. I would not be too shocked if Judi Dench showed up also for Belfast. I think that would be more likely if Katrina was not in this, because if it would be, it's not weird that it would happen, but it's, I feel like it would be a more logical thing. I know a lot of people love Catherine Hunter in The Tragedy of Macbeth.
I'd nominate her in a heartbeat.
She is insanely good. And I thought that there might be something there because New York gave her their Best Supporting Actress prize. And so we thought that might be a thing. It really hasn't panned out. And Tragedy of Macbeth has not been playing as well as an awards player as a lot of people might have expected. Jessie Buckley possibly for The Lost Daughter, but I'm having a hard time seeing that.
Yeah.
I think it really is the top 5 is who I have, and Ann Dowd and Marlee Matlin are right there fighting for a nomination.
I think
it'll be Martha Plimpton though.
Yeah, I think Cate Blanchett suffers as well because Nightmare Alley hasn't really performed that well either.
And she has 2 standout performances this year.
Yeah, it's tough. And Jessie Buckley would have been more of a player, but I think The Lost Daughter is not quite performing the way many of us expected it would. So
it's going exactly as I suspected.
Yeah, fair enough. That's fair. I just think that category is fascinating, and I just think we are going to see a lot of surprises in a couple of days, and that's where we might see a couple. Speaking of surprises, supporting actor is, to me, a bit of a mess. Pardon me, because we all know that Cody Smith-McPhee, most likely Troy Kotzer, and that's probably it. Maybe Kieran Hines, but I think those 2 are out front.
Yeah, I think those 2 are the certain ones, and Kieran Hines is just the tier right below that.
Yeah,
it's very likely.
I was very happy to see Mike Feist. I think he was wonderful in West Side Story, and that really helps him. I think Jamie Dornan is a standout in Belfast. He's just not getting the right traction he needs to get that Oscar nomination. I can't see that happening, although I'm going to keep predicting him until the very last moment. So then, Tony, what do you think about this Jared Leto thing? Because that he's done quite well, and I know how you feel about his performance personally, but in terms of his nomination prospects, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Why not?
Me, Mario.
Oh, I thought it was awesome, by the way. I'm not in that boat. I thought he was fucking incredible. So go on.
Anyway, no, look, I think we've seen this play before in terms of Jared Leto giving a divisive performance, like The Little Things. But because House of Gucci is also kind of propelling Gaga, I think he actually could get in this time.
Yeah, I agree.
So I actually do have him in. And again, there seems to be a running theme here. I think Cody Smith-McPhee is probably the strong front runner, and I agree. Troy Kotzer's in there and Kieran Hines. I'm stuck on what to do with that fifth slot because I agree with you about Dornan and Mike Feist and I think Jesse Plemons could easily get in.
That was a big surprise.
Can we talk about that?
The fact that he got in at BAFTA, that made me so happy because Power of the Dog was my #1 film of the year, and I had Plemons in for the longest time, but I wasn't seeing him getting in anywhere really. And then that BAFTA nod, I was like, whoa. So I think he is a player here. Because
I think he is often overlooked. And I'm thinking if that movie is doing so well, then why the hell aren't we looking at Jesse Plemons? So I'm very happy that people are recognizing he could be a surprise contender at the Oscars in a couple of days. Charlie, is there anyone else that we're missing? What about Ben Affleck, J.K. Simmons?
Ben Affleck is one to keep. I have him in there. So I actually have Troy Kotzer at #1 right now.
I think that's.
Then Smith McPhee, Hines. I have Affleck at 4, then Leto.
Wow. Okay.
But in addition to that, I mean, Affleck is very it's weird. It feels like it just contradicts what I said earlier about Blanchett. She had 2 big performances. Affleck has 2 big performances this year, and I think that Ben Affleck is one of those people that we often we feel good about him, and then something happens, and then we're not as crazy about him, and then that sort of lingers for a year or two, and then he comes back and we're like, oh yeah, he's good. And I think a lot of people, I actually thought in the lead up to the season that his performance in The Last Duel was going to be that one, because I heard people raving about that performance. So I really, but yeah, I mean, the fact that he has that performance as well, and it feels like with the nominations at SAG and Golden Globes, I believe, that it's the Tender Bar is the one that he'll get that he would be recognized for. So that makes it a bit easier.
Wow, I'm really surprised that you have him in your 4th slot. I just don't think he has a shot in hell. But okay,
I'm going in a slightly different direction. I am actually putting both Plemons and Smith McPhee in, because when there's a film that is, a top tier contender, a possible front runner to win, we see that oftentimes there are multiple nominations in the same category, particularly acting nominations. 3 Billboards had both Woody Harrelson and Sam Rockwell, and Rockwell won. Rockwell was always the front runner, much like Cody Smith McPhee is a pretty strong front runner. I think him and Kotzer are kind of neck and neck as to who will ultimately win. But I don't think it's not unlikely to get 2 nominations for the same acting nominations in the same category.
Absolutely. There's a few really massive long shots that I'm just going to name drop fun that probably have 0 chance. But I thought one of the best, one of the most exciting performances out of Coda was Daniel Durant. And I wish he was more in the conversation, but I think he will probably miss out this time. I also really, really, really loved the idea of Bradley Cooper in Licorice Pizza, and that still could happen. I mean, it's only really one amazing scene, and that's happened before, but I don't see why not.
But he got it at SAG, and I think that is so important because I think a lot of us were being, we realized that it could be a thing. I mean, even before the movie came out, there was all this buzz about Bradley Cooper, but I remember a lot of people also saying, remember, he may not be in the movie that much, so we don't know what kind of supporting performance this is going to be.
True.
And it turned out that people loved it, were raving about it, but then he just wasn't getting in anywhere until SAG. And now SAG has single-handedly reignited that possibility.
Yeah, and threw me for a loop. Woody Norman made it in at BAFTA, which I would never have guessed in a million years.
Well, the kid is British, so.
Good point. And they are very
like their hometown people.
They're very parochial when they vote at BAFTA. With Worst Person in the World being so popular, I would have hoped, and I can't pronounce his name, sorry, but Anders Danielson Lee, who plays the husband in the partner in that movie, is phenomenal, and he won at the National Society of Film Critics. So he should probably be more of a contender. And then, like, you know, for me, the best performance in House of Gucci after Gaga was actually Al Pacino. And if Eyes of Tammy Faye was more of a player in the awards season, Andrew Garfield should be here too, because he's really, really good in that movie. I found him to be the most compelling. So that category is a killer. So the actors who make it in, if you make it into that 5, you need to pat yourself on the back because there's a lot of competition. So well done. Let's move on to.
I will say one other one that I feel, because I know it hasn't been performing as King Richard hasn't been performing as strong as a lot of us probably thought it would, but and this is still a very long shot possibility, but John Bernthal is really good in that movie. I remember it. I was like, why does this performance feel so different? And I'm like, oh, he's showing human joy. And I've never seen him do that.
I've never seen
because not nothing against him. It's just that he's always played these very dark, brooding characters. And so he is a good scene stealer in that movie as well. So that's another one keep your eye out for.
So before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you guys if you can think about one nomination that you are kind of hoping for, you think it could happen, that, you know, if it happens, you will be kind of screaming on the rooftops about how amazing your prediction skills are and also how happy you are for that nominee. Is there anyone in particular that you can think of looking across the board? Because while you think, I was hoping, it's never going to happen, but maybe enough Academy members will write in, we don't talk about Bruno, for their choice as best original song, because that should be there. Disney, you should have submitted that instead of Dos Oruguitas, which, by the way, is also a beautiful song. This year, I've been so invested in this song category. Normally, I don't really care that much. So many excellent songs to choose from, like Just Look Up from Don't Look Up, and Guns Go Bang, and from How Do They Fall. So May We Start from Annette, Dream Girl from Cinderella. They're all really good, but I think Billie Eilish is probably winning that with her brother Phineas. And I think for my one nomination, if it happens, if So May We Start gets nominated from Annette, so random because I didn't love that movie. I thought it was great, but I didn't love it that much. But that song is fantastic, and I want that to get nominated because I want to see the Sparks Brothers up on the stage performing it. Okay, who would like to go first? I want to know something that you're really hoping for.
Well, I'm going to go into the doc categories because I love them so much. You know, first of all, I think that Summer of Soul is winning, which was my number 2 film of the year. So I'm not even worried about that.
How are you not worried? It's the front runner. That's the worst position to be in for a documentary. Every year, it's the worst position to be in.
But in that doc feature category, I think it has a chance. I'm predicting it, but it's more of a hope diction. But Todd Haynes' The Velvet Underground is a gorgeous film about music I don't particularly care for, and I was enthralled by it. I think it's just an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous film. And in the doc short category, a film that can be seen on Netflix called Audible, which is a football movie about a high school football team at a deaf high school, at a high school for the deaf in Maryland.
Maryland
is
terrible drivers, by the way.
It is just a heartbreaking but so uplifting and so joyful film. Just made me weep.
Oh, I'm gonna go and watch that today. Now that you've said that, because it
was so uplifting, and it just made me it restores your hope in humanity. So those are kind of my 2.
When a film can do that, that's Coda did that for me, which coincidentally happened to be about deaf people, just coincidentally. But yeah, when a film could do that, wow, amazing. Charlie, what about you?
Well, there are a couple. Doc feature, I first want to go doc feature. I think it has a strong chance of getting in, but I'm really just worried about that category in general. Procession, I thought, was an incredible movie. It's just it's so just, I don't even have the words to explain it. It's such an incredible experience watching that movie, and I was so moved by it. I would love to see that get in. Animated feature, I'm very worried, and I want Mitchell's versus the Machines to get in. Lord and Miller.
I think it's getting in.
Miller, what's that?
I think it's.
I don't know. I mean, I'm always just worried about it. I mean, come on. With Lord and Miller after the Lego Movie stub, I'm not taking anything for granted on that. And I'd also say in Doc Short, as opposed to the thing that renews your faith in humanity, the thing that made me lose faith in humanity, but is still an incredible documentary, is Day of Rage, about the siege, about the riot at the Capitol on January 6th, and the way that the team from the New York Times pieced all this footage that had been shot on people's cell phones at the Capitol and laid it out to where people were in the Capitol, showed you exactly where things were, where the members of Congress were, where they were being evacuated, how close Mitt Romney and Mike Pence were to getting accosted by this crowd. It is incredible. Wow. And I just think I think it's incredible, and I would love to see it get in, but you never know with those short categories. And of course, what's that? Yeah.
Where can people see Day of Rage if they want to see it?
If they want to see it, they can find it on the New York Times website. And you can also, I think, it might be on Hulu or YouTube. You can find, I believe, you can find it on YouTube as well.
Okay.
Because it was.
Who have you got winning, by the way? Who have you got winning documentary short, or what film? Sorry. Oh,
I think I actually have that one winning right now, just out of because I feel like it's just the one that it's just the one that has the subject matter that is the most prevalent.
What about you, Tony? Who do you have winning?
I actually have Audible winning because and it was the same thing with Colette last year. I think I was one of the few people that was predicting that.
I had it for the longest time, and then I switched. I was so angry with myself.
You know, never underestimate a film that makes you feel good. Yeah. Never underestimate a Holocaust film or a film that makes you feel good. There's also Camp Confidential, which is also a short doc on Netflix. Netflix has quite a number of the doc shorts, so go check out those if you want to see some of the ones that are on the short list.
Yeah, we'll do. A couple of other things.
Audible's my number 2, actually. I have Audible at number 2.
Okay, I'm going to try to check out some of those if I have time this weekend. A couple of others I wanted to mention. Hans Zimmer, his score for Dune is probably in front, but and I'm not really supposed to be talking about who's winning, but I would really hope that he actually finally wins that second Oscar for that incredible score.
And just on score, I do want to say also, actually, I'm wondering about that score category because it felt like Zimmer is out front for it. But if Spencer isn't doing as well as a lot of people think, that means that there's only one nomination for Johnny Greenwood. Yeah. And Rob, you and me, we're big Radiohead fans. I mean, come on, Kid A defined us and made us social outcasts. I don't, maybe not you, but the idea of Johnny Greenwood winning an Oscar is so incredible.
It's so overdue as well. That is an incredible score. They're the two best scores of the year for me. Encanto is really great too. Don't Look Up from Nicholas Britell. And I've been listening to Alberto Iglesias' score for Parallel Mothers for the last week on rotation. That is phenomenal. So I expect that to get in there too. But also, The Green Knight has been completely just overlooked this award season. And if it's going to get in anywhere, despite the ASC snub, I would hope that Andrew Dros Palermo's just phenomenal lensing of that movie. Like, it just looks like a painting. It's so beautiful. And the lighting and the way that they structure all the color, it's just phenomenal. It should make it in. And
similarly with the both the cinematography and the production design of Tragedy of Macbeth.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Astonishing.
That cinematography is incredible. And I would also say, also for, on cinematography, and it is so stunningly beautiful, and it is so justified in using the black and white. Passing is incredibly shot, and yeah, absolutely. I would love to see that get in.
Yeah. And so there's probably others, like we already mentioned Renata Reinsberg. If that actually happens, I'm gonna flip out. But yeah, look, there's so much to look forward to. I look forward to the surprises. There's going to be stuff that none of us were even seeing coming, and that's what I most want to look forward to. We're going to hopefully get back together after the Oscar announcement, maybe a day after. We might have a couple of other people join us, like Riley and Matt. But in the meantime, everybody, stick with Gold Derby. We've got so much to look forward to this weekend. And of course, on the Oscar nominations announcement morning, we will have so much fantastic coverage from our in-house team. In the meantime, have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you soon.